Hi, my name is Dr. TONNY'S, the chair of Nairobi Innovation Week. Welcome to the Innovation Show. We use this show to engage on conversations around innovation, thinking through the pipeline, thinking through the policy, thinking through the skill sets, etc. You know, we're just about done with the Innovation Week 2016. We've had engagements. You know, the president of the Republic of Kenya was with us yesterday, officially launched the forum. Then, you know, we've gone into panel, there's a lot of exhibitions going on out there. And then we just started thinking maybe we need to start talking about 2017.
But first, a little bit of a therapy session, which is why I'm on the doctor's sofa.
Are you okay?
Well, my name's Fabian. I co-lead the innovation unit at UNICEF in New York. And Tony, I've got to say, after this week, I am very okay and very inspired, but I have a lot of sort of psychic and psychological therapy questions that I have to get off my chest.
Let's see, you got some?
Well, I mean, I think, based on all of this stuff that you presented this week over the last few days, I'm so curious about what's coming next. What's happening next year?
Well, you know, that's the problem about next year, is you're talking about the future, and we don't know the future.
It's all problems.
But you know what? We've got trends. Trends. And one of the things I've started seeing is around big data.
So what are some of the trends, like what kind of trends are you looking at?
Oh, I had people talk about, transportation is changing. I had people talk about education and learning is changing. I have a feeling that even at UNICEF, you people have been thinking about some of these things.
Yeah, so one of the things that I talked about today was looking at those spaces where we see $100 billion industries emerging that had never existed before. Things like, you say transportation. Drones right now are being experimented with and tried out in prototype, but nobody's figured out exactly how to use them. But as soon as we get the regulation and we're able to use drones at scale, it'll change the way a country like Kenya does its transportation.
I'll surprise you. I was in a booth and the president came and I had two drones there. And while we were talking, we explained to him what we're doing with drones, and then we had some things on the wall trying to explain some of the experiments. And then he asked, "Okay, so what have you done?" And then we said, yeah, we did this one in Tanzania." And then he asked, "Why Tanzania?" Then he said, "Oh, the regulation in Kenya didn't quite support us." And he said, "What?" Then he looked at his cabinet secretaries and anyway, let me stop right there.
Well, that's the benefit of having the president come to Nairobi Innovation Week. But it's interesting because I saw the drone work that was being done here, which is like 3D printed open source drone bodies. And the incredible thing is I saw the same work being done in Lusaka a few months ago at a lab there. In Malawi, up in Blantyre, they're working on the very same thing. So I actually think that there's a moment in these big future areas that you're talking about to start bringing together young entrepreneurs or old entrepreneurs who are working on this stuff in different countries where it's like we're an hour away from Blantyre. But if we could somehow connect to the Polytechnic and then to Lusaka, suddenly we could go a lot faster. And in fact, the question of regulation is interesting because we are working in Malawi with the government, and the Minister of Defense launched our first drone in Malawi.
Minister of Defense.
And he did it with the Civil Aviation Authority, and it was a drone for moving HIV blood samples from kids. And he said, when I was a kid, I used to make little airplanes out of corn husks and throw them, and now I'm launching a drone that will help save kids' lives.
Okay, now what about learning? We had lots of conversations last week about the future of learning and the future of our universities. Think about the university of the future. What are your thoughts about learning?
I don't think we're teaching kids the right stuff at all right now. I think that the idea of having these curricula that are divided into 45-minute blocks and you teach stuff from 1850 is crazy. And what you see now is that 14-year-olds are registering businesses and they're doing stuff that's really sophisticated, and we're still trying to sit down and teach people, here's a quadratic equation. It's like, you can do that on your phone now. So what about teaching people how to model in this world that's so complex, or how to deal with all the ambiguity that we see around us? And so we know that now climate has changed so much, that the rains are changing, that you can't do the same planting you did before. And that's an ambiguity that it doesn't matter how much Shakespeare you know, if you can't deal with that ambiguity, you're in a really bad place.
And there are many organizations thinking about this space, private sector, government, and therefore it's possible we can actually attract partners around a theme like that.
Sure.
And we want to make this global. So I also think identity is a big deal. I think finance is now, there's that overlap between telco and financial institutions, and it's gradually becoming a big. We talk about blockchain and other language. By the way, what's blockchain?
Blockchain, I just struggle to understand it, and every time I think I have it, it becomes something else. But we're looking at blockchain as a fundamental layer for UNICEF to give people identity and access to inclusion in big systems. So the idea with blockchain is that you can record transactions between us in a way that is permanent. It's on the internet, it exists, and it's validated by everybody around us. So you could give me some money and we could record that transaction, and then later on, if we want to check, did he actually do that, we could see. If we have land and our land is next to each other, we might be able to write down the boundaries and put that on blockchain, and everybody around us verifies it, and that becomes a record that exists over time and over space. So for us, if you're dealing with people who are refugees, for example, you might want to make sure that they have that identity. Like, oh, I did this class in this school here, and then I moved to another country, and that they build up over time. Because what we see is that these big problems around us, like the 60 million people who are on the move because of violence, their future is being eroded by their present. And so some of these things that give permanence can maybe stop that erosion or really help people build something better.
So you're actually gravitating towards big data. I've heard so much about big data. Well, we do analytics, we talk about data warehouses, data mining and stuff. And we now live in the age of data. Is that something you're also very keen?
Yeah, I mean, I think big data is probably the area that offers the most immediate opportunity for us. Of all of the things you've mentioned, and of identity and finance and transport, the data stuff is so close. And an example is right now we're working with IBM, Google, and Amadeus, the travel provider, to take their data in aggregate, combine it, and give us better understandings of the world. And those are only 3 private sector. I talked to somebody from a big telephone company here that might hold a lot of financial services, and asked if they would be interested in contributing their data, and they seemed quite keen on it as well. And the idea is, could you take data and treat it as a public good? So IBM owns the Weather Channel, which has all this weather data. Amadeus knows travel data. Can you combine those things and see where Zika might be moving in South America, or see where Ebola is moving in West Africa? And the answer is yes. So we've proven that you can do that. Now the question is, how do you bring that to more companies and say, hey guys, you're taking so much data from us. Every time I log on to, for example, Facebook, I'm giving away so much of my data. Why don't you give something back? And not give it back just to me, but give it to the world as a public good.
Boom. So if we have a chance, now it seems like there's a connection of the mind. I read somewhere there that the greatest thing you can have is a commingling of mission statements. So here we are. I think we are interested in some of these areas, and seemingly, since you are, and you have that global view, we could make a great partnership in thinking about innovation in 2017. And the beautiful thing is we're going to do it early next year, so probably somewhere March, April, thereabouts. So we're about to announce the dates very soon. And this, to me, is the difference between sponsorship and partnership. Because we're able to work together, develop the concept together, and not just wait towards the end and then we have some expectations. So we manage the relationship and the expectations as we go along.
Well, I think so. I mean, for me, sponsorship is somebody's rich and somebody's poor, and you do something together, and partnership is we're both poor, but we work really hard and try to make something cool happen. I think that the UNICEF's innovation work is really close collaborations with University of Nairobi and with the lab that you run here, but also with Tsinghua in Beijing. We're building other similar collaborations with universities around the world. So I wonder if we could take some of these big themes, the future of education or future of transport, where you have these huge emerging billion-dollar industries and needs, and even challenge some of our other academic partners to be part of that Innovation Week.
Absolutely. I mean, I look forward to having booths of MIT and Tsinghua.
Let's do a challenge.
And do a challenge between universities and even create some panel discussions around professors from different places talking about some of the solutions they've created, and that will have a global outlook.
We'd be really happy to work with you on that. I think that sounds exciting and fun, and I'm always happy to be here in one of my favorite cities. So
we have a deal. We have a
awesome
deal. This is Chris Fabian, heads some of the innovation work at the global office of UNICEF. It's been great really engaging this guy. I mean, we sound like crazy people, right? But you know what? That's what it takes sometimes to make a change, isn't it? Boom.
Thanks, Tony.
All right, thanks very much. Keep engaging with us. Our social media details, you can catch up with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Our hashtag is #EngageOnMwanza. This is the Innovation Show. See you later. Bye.